Let's have a look and see why and when we would buy and use an 18 gauge finish nailer. I do a lot of fine finish work, cabinetry, that sort of thing, and this is the one that I use the vast majority of the time. Now this is an 18 gauge finish nailer. It takes 18 gauge brad nails. This nailer in particular will take anything from, it says 20 mil, but it will take 15 mil up to 50 mil nails. So quite beefy really. Super simple, all you do is you just pop them in, push it down, and you're ready to go. This will bump fire and semi-auto fire. So semi-auto is every time I pull the trigger, as long as the safety is engaged. And the bump fire is when I pull the trigger, it will pop a nail in every single time. This is a pneumatic nailer, so I use air tools in the workshop and have a small compressor that I take out on site. Air tools tend to be cheaper, they're a lot easier to maintain and less to go wrong with them. The only thing you need to do with an air nailer is take a little pot of oil, something like this that you normally get with the tool, and pop a couple drops in every day before you use it, and that will just keep the inside lubricated. You don't want to use too much because too much will gum up the insides, and if you don't use enough, the insides will become damaged. Ask me how I know. As you can see, this thing is relatively beat up. I've had this now for getting on 10 years, and yet it still works every single time I need to use it. So you might be asking, Josh, what do I use an 18 gauge nailer for over a 16 gauge nailer? So a 16 gauge nailer we're going to use for trim work in a property, right? An 18 gauge nailer, now the thing with an 18 gauge nailer is the pins, these nails, pins, they're not particularly strong. So what I tend to use these for are when I'm using another sort of fixing or adhesive to hold the product together. So say for example, I'm going to make a box and it's going to be glued. I'll pop a couple pin nails in there to hold everything to where it needs to be whilst the glue sets. I wouldn't necessarily use these as a mechanical fixing to hold something together on their own, like I would do maybe a 16 gauge or a framing nail. You can use these for trim work in properties. You know, I sometimes use these and a 50 mil nail for doing skirting, doing architrave, stuff like that when I forgot my 16 gauge. Because they're a little bit smaller, they leave a smaller divot in the material when you drive them in. So again, makes them less visible, easier to fill. And like I said, they're perfect for cabinetry, drawers, all the sorts of fine finish work that you need a little bit of mechanical fixing in there just to keep everything tight whilst the glue holds. 18 gauge is your map. The other time when these excel is when you're doing fine work with materials that may split. So if you're using pine, like thin pine, you need to nail closer towards the edge. You're using plywood, but you're worried that it might split or blow out. The 18 gauge is the one that you want to use. You can go smaller than this, but I don't use anything smaller than this. This works out perfectly for 99% of the work that I use. If I needed anything else, I'd probably just rely on the glue itself. When would you not use one of these then? So you wouldn't use an 18 gauge nailer when you're doing proper construction work. So when you're using 2x4s or you're nailing battens on, those sorts of things. That's not what this is for. This is fine finish trim work. I also wouldn't use this outside unless I was using the correct nails, because brads have a tendency to rust quite quickly, depending on the type of finish you have on the nail. But yeah, as a general rule, I wouldn't use brad nails outside unless they're going to be finished or covered correctly. As with any nail gun, eye pro is paramount. You must wear eye protection. The other thing is I have had more injuries off of this than I have off of any of my other nailers. What tends to happen is, because you're doing fine work, you'll be holding the material, you'll be putting your fingers so close to where the nailer is. Because the nails are so skinny, what can happen is as the nail comes in and hits a knot or a tough part of the wood or another fixing, screw, something like that, it can curl right out. And I'm embarrassed to say the amount of times that I've nailed my fingers to a project. And this isn't just me, I know lots of people, everybody has brad nailed or had a brad nail poke into their hands at some point. And because of that, that's why things like eye protection are super important, because this will heal, this will not. So always make sure that you're using eye pro whenever you're working with any tools, table saws, chop saws, or nailers. So what do you think? Did I miss anything out? Do you think you could use it for anything else? Would you not use it? Am I right? Am I wrong? You let me know in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching. If you're still here, that's awesome, and I love you guys. You have a great day. Like, subscribe, and take it easy.